Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 456. Hope you're amazing as always. Do you know what? I'm a little bit excited about life right now. So many cool things are happening. They really are. And one of the coolest things is, hey, I get to do some more traveling. Do you know what? I've been bouncing around the world for 17 years. And do you ever think back why you do certain behaviors and certain things that are happening in your life right now? I think about them all the time, obviously, right? Obviously with what I do as a job. But I really wonder why I love traveling so much. And I come to a few different conclusions, right? One, I didn't do much when I was a kid. We didn't really go on holiday or vacation for you Americans. We didn't go on. We didn't have much money, so I didn't really travel. You know, I went to a couple of places and they're vivid memories. But one of the things was I grew up in, obviously, Liverpool, right, in the UK, and it doesn't get sunny too much there, right? And we do have water, but it's not a water you want to swim in, and it's definitely, there is beaches, but again, I don't know about you, but some of the sand in the UK, it's a little bit rocky, and you might come away with nuclear feet or something like that. They've possibly been melted, right? So it wasn't a big thing. And then I went to Greece at 19, and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the nature, the culture, it blew my mind. You ever had holidays like that? And then I think I'd been to one other place, Barcelona, and that was like for 2 days. And then I went to Australia. And it was so funny back then. I was working in a car factory, and, you know, there was just no jobs in Liverpool, and higher education definitely wasn't for me. I did a little bit of it, but it just wasn't for me at the time, you know. These days, hey, it might have been. But I went to Australia for a month, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind, the expansiveness, the way people lived, and it just changed everything about me. And I came back, and I wasn't in that car factory very long. And I don't know why I'm telling you this story. You've probably heard lots of me tell these crazy stories about my life, especially if you're a regular listener, you know. And I came back from Australia, and I knew I had to get out, right? There was no one around me. There was no entrepreneurs. There was no money around me when I was growing up. And there was no choices. No one told you about sales. No one told you about starting your own business. No one taught you about anything. I remember the careers advisor. You probably had a version of that in your school, right? And he came in. I remember this vividly. And they had all these folders. And each folder had all of these careers and jobs. And I went through them all, spent about an hour and a half going through them all. And I came over to him at the end. And I said, mate, I don't want to do any of these. What other options have you got? And he was like, well, that's it. And I said, yeah, I don't want to do any of these. What other options have you got? And I remember this. He looked at me, looked puzzled, and turned his back on me. How bizarre, right? How bizarre. Especially in the world, you know. But he was a career advisor in a school. So he obviously didn't have too many options for himself, right? But I came back from Australia, and I wanted to get into computers. Computers were booming. IT was booming right at that moment. Actually, it was about to crash. But as far as I was aware, it was booming. And I didn't have a computer. I'd never even double-clicked a mouse. Think about that, right? I'd never even double-clicked a mouse. And I was, 21 years old, and I studied. I borrowed books. I basically wanted to get a Microsoft certified qualification, right? And I thought that would be an amazing thing, and it'd get me into a career, you know. And the crazy thing was, I'd never have a computer. I wasn't in the industry, and I was pretty relentless. I failed that Microsoft exam. Guess how many times? Right? Think about this, right? I failed a Microsoft exam. I was studying 5 days a week. I didn't even know what a computer was. I failed 8 times. I think it was 8 or 9 times until I passed. Relentless, right? I was also on the under 21s England team in Shotokan Karate, so I was fighting every day. It was crazy times. But you know what? I got a job. And that job took me, into a different world. And that's where I first saw money, because the company I worked for, it was a computer company. Well, it was actually a luxury holiday company. And it did all holidays to like Andrew Lloyd Webber, David Beckham, royalty, like 98% of all Concorde. Remember Concorde? Concorde bookings in the world went through them. And it blew my mind. And then, guess what? They were going to kick me out of that job after about a year or so. Why? Because I got bored and there was no room for growth inside the company. And that was it. Boss loved me, but he was going to fire me. And he gave me 3 months' money, and I used that money, passed another qualification, which I passed first time. I got 96% or something, and then flew to Australia, Sydney. And I don't even know why I'm telling you this story, crew. I'm just going on a bit of a rant, but there's a purpose. And what was crazy about it was, even up to that point of when I hit Sydney, and there's whole stories behind this. I remember spending all my money in 4 weeks and then needed a job. And I was like, where shall I get a job? And back then it was weird. I was very shy. I wasn't good at communicating, and wasn't full of confidence. And I remember saying to myself, well, where do I want a job? I've got to get a job, right? And I was big into labels at the time, Armani, Hugo Boss, and things like that. I didn't have money, but I'd spend like a whole week's money on like some jeans, right? It's stupid, but that's the way it was back then. And I went, I only want to work in Versace, Hugo Boss, or Armani, right? Never had any retail experience in my life. Made up a resume, a CV, and just walked in to Versace and went, have you got a job? Guess what they said? Yes. I walked into Armani. I said, you got a job? Guess what they said? Yes. Crazy. I worked in Armani for 1 week. Got taken to a private party. At that private party, somebody said to me, I'll get you a job, mate. I went, yeah, whatever. He goes, I'll get you a job, mate. I'll get you an interview. I'll call you tomorrow. Some random dude at a party says he'll call you tomorrow. I'm like, yeah. He did. Got me an interview. That's how I found sales. That's how I found neuro-linguistic programming. And that's how I changed my life. And I'm telling you all this because it leads into today's episode, right? It leads into today's episode. It's I'm going to show you an excerpt from The 8-Figure Thinker, which, hand on heart, is the premier mental performance training for an entrepreneur that exists. Bar none, absolutely, I'll put it against anything that exists out there. It's so in-depth. It's like an encyclopedia to tune your brain into being... an 8-figure thinker, or the ultimate version of you as an entrepreneur. 8-figure thinker, you could have called it an infinite thinker, right? 10-figure thinker, whatever, right? It's just infinite thinking. But everyone talks about, mental performance, right? And growth and all of this, and how to use NLP and for sales, or how to use NLP or psychological tactics for confidence, or deleting old patterns that have caused problems from business partners, or changing memories, or getting clarity, or building patterns into the future of how you're going to close deals, or your business is going to grow. And it's literally with changing the structure of the brain, neurology, and it's badass. And that's what I love and done for 17 years, right? And I can go on with a lot more things that I do. But what is really not taught a lot, and it's so important, is about the behavioral psychology, the actual physiology, right? Because the physiology side of actually connecting with someone, and it's everything. I mean, think about this. You might have all the sales skills in the world, and you really might, but if you can't build rapport with someone, then guess what? It doesn't mean anything. So imagine if you could really learn the tactics of how to build subliminal unconscious rapport with somebody instantly, and they didn't even know, but they'd absolutely love you. And you were being genuine and real. It's just like speeding it up through technique. Would that be powerful? Right. Imagine if you could walk into any room, no matter what, and become the alpha. And I don't mean alpha as in, look at me, rah, 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 with ego. No, you become alpha because of your physiology. You become alpha because of your tonality. You become alpha. Well, that would be powerful, wouldn't it? What about in networking events, or having a magnetic presence, or being able to covertly take control over any conversation with hypnotic language patterns? And imagine if you were just trying to help these people. Do you think that might be important? What about being able to capture any room, right? Or any audience, or being on stage, or in a networking event, or in a negotiation, or in a business meeting, right? Do you think these might be powerful things, right? Or you could be the same with your family, right? It's just being able to connect with people on such a deep psychological level through physiology, body language, understanding eye accessing cues, reading people so well that they're able to feel like they're your best friend, right? And this is all the stuff I've really learned and mastered, because what happened in Australia is that, well, I became the top performer in the country, or one of the top two in Australia inside of 6 months. We got headhunted to New Zealand. I broke every record in multiple companies, investment real estate, and was the top performer in New Zealand at the time, right? And it's all to do with this. The amount of times people would say to me, and we mean within 5 minutes of walking into somebody's home that they didn't even know they wanted to buy real estate, and within 5 minutes that the couple is saying to me, "Oh, Andy, it's like we've known you for years." Right? Hundreds of times. I dealt with thousands of people, but hundreds of times that would happen. Now, is it an accident? No. It's pre-designed in my brain, and it's absolute implicit technique. But that's the same with restructuring thought patterns. Taking somebody who's in a dip, who's already a high performer, taking them in a dip, retraining the way they think, lighting them up again so they bounce back, but then move to a whole new height of what's possible in their business. And that's the thing that people don't understand. To move from 5 figures to 6 figures, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 plus, it's all about the way your brain's set up, how you think, what your beliefs are, what your focus is, what chemicals are playing, right? And this is the thing that people don't get. Everyone's looking at the skill set, but the skill set does not work without the mindset. And the mindset is actually building structure in the brain. I'm sorry if I'm going on a rant. I'm sorry. I just love this, right? I love this because this is the stuff that changed my life, and this is the stuff that's led me to help thousands and thousands of people, and I just love it, and I love it so much because it gave me so much first, and it helped me. I was putting 27 years old. I was putting $100 million resort together in Fiji. You know, it's went through bankruptcy, went through nervous breakdowns. No one was around me to help me, right? And I've been able to build my life all over the world, and to be known as one of the top people in the world for what I do. I'm so grateful for that. But it all starts from this. Is that making sense? I'm going on a bit of a rant, I get it. But this is actually level 7, or part, a tiny little section of level 7 in the 8-figure thinker. And I'm not trying to sell the 8-figure thinker here, right? If people who've gone through it absolutely love it and it's blowing their mind, but I'm not trying to sell you it, right? I'm not even driving traffic to it or anything. It's around, right? But it's amazing. But the reason I'm going on this rant is, if you need to know some real basics. This episode today, I'm just going to show you about 30 minutes of this, and there's like 10 sections in the level 7, and this is just a little clip of one of the main classes. But you need to understand this, because even over the phone, like, you build rapport over the phone, and it's energetically, sure, but is it the words that you say? Sure, but it's also about breathing rates. Did you know that? It's also about certain tonality matching, right? It's also about, you get the idea. And when we can learn these skills, people call this manipulation. Well, manipulation, whatever you want, right? Whatever you want to call it. But it's not manipulation. It's about communication. And what it means is that we're communicating at a deeper level than most people are aware of. And when you communicate at that level and you have constant, like, absolute awareness over every micro muscle in somebody's face, the tonality and what that means, you're mind reading people. What it means is you can help them way more. You can help sell your product, but you can help them understand themselves more, see a different perspective. And that's the key thing that changes them and makes their life, business, money, income, whatever, explode. Make sense? Right. Told you I was going on a crazy rant today. And back to my original point. I'm going traveling again, right? I'm going to be between October and November, over a few-week period. I'm going to be in Panama, going to be in Texas, in Dallas, in Austin, going to be in San Diego, LA, and Florida, in Tampa. And guess what? If you are around any of those places, hit me up. Maybe we can connect, right? Maybe we can connect. And always happy to meet new people. And if you want to connect for any different reasons, reach out to me at andy@mindsetbydesign.co.company, right? .co. Message me. And if I can connect, I'll be all about it. And speaking of being all about it after this crazy little rant I've just gone on, if you're a new listener to Mindset by Design, then welcome. Always awesome to have you here. And what we're here on about at Mindset by Design is about new ways of thinking. Using NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, what I'm a world-class expert at. Neural retraining, which is all my own systems, neuroscience, gamification, we're dealing with the conscious, unconscious mind, behavioral psychology, a sprinkle of spirituality, anything to make sure that you become a high performer, an 8-figure thinker, a world-class you, whatever the heck you want to call it. The 1% of people out there. And if that's you and you're a high performer and you've got a really strong mind and you want it sharpening, then keep listening. If you are a high performer and you have dipped in performance and you want to bounce back and take your game to a whole new level of rocket-fueled results, then keep listening. You need to have a chat with me. We've got some awesome stuff coming up. We've got mentor programs. We've got lots of stuff that we need to have a chat about and find the right fit for you. So hit those show notes, click to have a chat with myself or one of my coaches, and let's work out what a right fit for you is. Resonate with that, then hit those show notes. And speaking of hitting those show notes, make sure that you're hanging out with me in the Facebook Incubator group. You're connecting with me on Instagram. And maybe you want to go and look at the 8-figure thinker, right? That's the free training that's there. Maybe you want to get your brain right every single day. Well, guess what? You can go and you can use the World-Class Performer audio. There's all these different tools. I'm just trying to help you. And now it's time to help yourself before we jump into today's episode. So let's do that right now. Let's learn about some body language and behavioral psychology to make sure that you are the 1% of anybody in any room or doing anything so you can help whoever you want as fast as you want. Sound good? Beautiful. Let's jump into this right now. What's going on, 8-figure thinker? So here we are on level 7, the main class. I'm impressed with you. I really, really am. And I really hope that you love level 6 because this ties onto it. This is about using all that subliminal communication and really being able to step out into the world and create this global network. And what I mean by that, I have a massive network across the world and I'm very lucky, but it's come because not I've created manipulation or influence, it's just come because I can be myself, right? I've learned over time how to become myself, the best version of myself, when I'm connecting with people, when I'm meeting new people, or when I'm traveling. So all the people that I know across the world are all very high-end world champions, multi-millionaires, really massively successful at everything that they do. It's because we are given energy exchange for sure, but it's also because the things I'm going to teach you today are about how to maintain these things, how to step into a room and be magnetic, all of this cool stuff, because it's really about truly being you, right? And the best version of you all the time. And if you are, that's why people are going to like you. That's why people are going to want to hang out with you. And that's why people are going to invite you to conferences or meetings or to have experiences. So today is a brilliant, brilliant level. I'm pumped about it. We got so much to go through. So shall I shut up? I thought it might say that. And let's just jump in. Let's just jump in. So as always, I'm going to share my screen. And then we're going to press play. So today's class, some really cool stuff. We're going to go deeper into the covert communication. The first thing we're going to give you is I'm going to teach you about rapid rapport. And then I'm actually going to go into it later and I'm going to show you the strategy behind it. It's epic. We're going to go into leading a room, networking events, that magnetic presence that I was talking about, and how to literally become a magnet, right? Covertly take control in the middle of a conversation, conversational rapport, and even how to capture a room. Do you think that might be helpful? Do you think that might be important? Because remember what we've done, right? We've got you over this gap now. We've rebuilt that set point. We've created the energy. We taught you how to communicate covertly. And now we want you to take that covertness and the communication and the best version of you out into the world and make sure that everybody can see it, because if they do, they're going to love you, your business is going to accelerate, and you're going to be able to build a deeper level of connection with anyone on the planet. Like it? Beautiful. So should we jump in? Let's do it. So underground covert connection. How to instantly connect with anyone on the planet. Would that be helpful? Good. And this is the truth. With these skills and techniques and practice, the thing is, because I can be who I am, me, right, authentically and genuinely, I remember this is the truth. Within a 24-hour period, I literally went out for dinner with Saudi Arabian royalty, princess, prince, and all of these people. And then the next morning, I went and hang out on Venice Beach in California and hang around with bums and homeless people. It's the same difference. They're just people. I'm just a person, right? I'm not better or worse than anyone that exists. We respect people's journey and their accomplishments, but it doesn't mean they're better than you. It just means they're more wise and they've gone further down a very specific path or spent more time, effort, and energy specializing in a specific path. And you should recognize that and appreciate and learn everything you can from that person. But they're not better than you. They're just a human. So when you can start to understand this and come from this perspective, it becomes much, much easier to connect with anyone. Like it? Make sense? Good. Let's keep going. Because rapport in one easy step. Would that be handy? Good. Now remember, this is tying on to level 6. And what does that mean? We're dealing with unconscious and subliminal communication. Okay, so this is where all of this becomes very, very apparent, and you're going to put it into a practical sense, because this technique, it's very simple, and I'm going to go into it more later on in the level, but here's a specific technique that allows you to take control of a conversation while increasing the subject's responsiveness and creating feelings of warmth, familiarity, and friendliness, right? It works well in most situations, but has a special effect with people you are meeting for the first time. So this could be a business merger. This could be whatever it is, right? And something's on the line. This is where this works best. Put it into context, I remember back in the day, I would be in someone's house for 5 minutes, and I cannot tell you the amount, hundreds of times this has been said to me, Andy, it feels like we've known you all our life and it's just like we're catching up. Wow. Right. It's because I could go in and be me without any ego, without any boundary, and go straight into the unconscious mind. Now, how to gain instant rapport is the fastest and easiest method to gain rapport. It's not the only one. I just want to give you something that you can apply now, okay? So the fastest way is to assume you already have it. Right? Might seem silly and stupid, but guess what? It might seem obvious and it might seem silly. However, like being on stage, completely calm, confident, it requires a lot of prep work. It really does. Remember my 5 Ps, the cheesy 5 Ps? Prior planning prevents poor performance. For me to talk to you being this calm and happy and confident, and all the videos that I've done, the hours and hours and hours of video and content, it doesn't just come by accident. It's like saying someone who's going in the Olympics, and they just get there and they win the gold. It didn't just come by accident, right? It really didn't. It requires a lot of prep work. So by assuming you already have it, there's a lot that goes into that, okay? So, well, keep going. I'll keep going because we'll talk about this in more. Because step 1 is I want you to engage your imagination. Yes, there's a silly photo there, but I want you to imagine you're talking to your best friend. And you're like, what? That's how we do it? Come with me, let me talk. Imagine you are talking to your best friend, okay? Picture them right now. Pop them up in your head, or one of your best friends. Pop them up, right? The way you speak to them, the body language and your attitude towards them is subtly different. And I use the word there, subtly different, okay? Because what are we dealing with? That's right, we're dealing with the unconscious mind, okay? So on an unconscious level, you'll be sending signals that the client will respond to, and you will be leading them into a feeling of familiarity and responsiveness, okay? So when you can really connect with someone genuinely and instantly, then what happens is this doesn't come from outside in, this comes from inside out, because that person is really building unconscious rapport. And this is something I need to explain to you. Unconscious rapport means then we use matching and mirror and all these other things that I'll teach you in the sales course. But I want you to understand that you're making friends with the unconscious mind. So by using these systems and connecting with them deeply and genuinely, what happens is we are making sure that their unconscious mind goes, yes, I trust this person. They are like me. And when we can do that, we break through the unconscious resistance, the conscious resistance, or we bypass the critical faculty, that wall in between the conscious and unconscious mind. And what that means is then we can really create massive influence, okay? So see through their eyes, genuinely. Now, we go back to the earlier levels when we were talking about different perceptions, right? Different perspectives, I should say. So perspective 1 is you're seeing through the world through your eyes. Perspective 2 is seeing through the other person's eyes. Perspective 3 is a third-party person looking at both views. Perspective 4 is about an overall ultimate observer point of view of all those perspectives. So this is just perspective 2, okay? What that means is I want you to see the world through their eyes. So imagine you are seeing, hearing, and feeling how they are, right? What they're seeing, how are they representing the world to themselves? What are their values, their beliefs? What builds their empathy, right? What's their story? What's their attitude? What are their bad experiences? What are their good experiences? What do they want? What is their driver, okay? So when you can start to look at the world through their eyes, what it does is something very, very powerful. It allows you to understand their buying strategies, their motivations, and so much more. So there you go. I was one slide ahead, but it allows you to begin to understand their decision and pattern strategies, okay? It's very important because in future courses, we can build deeper rapport techniques that have a lot more sophistication, and they're going to let you covertly change your subject's emotions, build rapport with groups, implant suggestions. But right now, we're just focusing on this, okay? So that's what we want. We want you to see the world through their eyes. It's going to help in sales and conversations and communication in general. So the thing is, we're not going to teach you all of that stuff, but they all start with the same basic premise of assuming you already have rapport. Assuming you've known them for 20 years, talking to them that way, holding them that way, physically touching them that way, talking about deep personal things this way. If we assume it, then there is a context to that. Now, if you've done the job right, you'll get rapport at a very fast level. But this can also take a little bit of time, meaning that we can build rapport, but then there's levels of deepness of rapport, right? Just as if you're friends, you know, you have closer friends than others. Remember the circles? Same thing, right? So we have deeper levels of circles of rapport. So how do we use that understanding? I'm going to go into a bit more later, but how do we use that understanding to lead a room? And there's, again, lots of these photos in this course, right? But Leo leading that room, okay? Jordan Belfort leading that room. What's his body posture, first of all? Big, wide, expressive. Just a little insight. That's being honest to the unconscious mind. If I'm like this, I'm open, I'm vulnerable and honest. I'm going to teach you more about that in a few minutes. So first impressions become massively important when we're leading a room, right? Think about this. If you walked into a room and you saw a party, let's use a party. We all like to party. So if you walked into a party and there is some guy sitting in the corner just with his drink like this, right? Or there's someone dancing, having fun, who do you want to be around, right? You probably want to be around the most excited person. Also, what's your first impression of those two people? First impression is the excited, pumped up person is happy, they're trustworthy, they're fun, you want to hang out with them. What about the other person? Well, they're depressed, sad, not someone you want to be around, they're going through some stuff. At the end of the day, you don't know what's happened, right? That person who's jumping around could have been an idiot to that person who's sitting in the corner, right? And that person in the corner might have been happy 2 minutes ago, but that person who's dancing might have been sad. They might have swapped roles, but it doesn't matter, right? Your assumption, right? Or your presupposition of that person with the first impression changes everything. Makes sense? So when we can start to understand that the first impression of entering a room, stepping on a stage, or meeting someone is so important. And if you're not going in there building yourself and becoming yourself and being who you know you really are, the 8-figure thinker version of you, then the challenge becomes is everyone around you is going to get the wrong impression. Okay? So people are unconsciously looking for people in power. Now, power doesn't come necessarily from ego, although power can come from ego. Powerful means full masculine energy, right? Masculine energy, by the way, is also inside of women. That's a conversation, of course, for a whole different topic, right? But social power equals social comfort. Because that guy, like, who's dancing in the party, who's having a really good time, not being an idiot, not causing hassles, he becomes that magnet. And that social power means he has social comfort, and people want to be around that social comfort because everyone is outside their comfort zone and feels a bit awkward, right? I don't know about you, but I have to really put myself into state to go and do networking events. But the reason is I don't find them natural. I have to become that version of me so I can step outside that boundary, so I can step into the right state, so I can become me, okay? I'm not one of those people who goes around and will meet every single person in the room, although you probably thought I would, right? You probably thought that. I'm not. But I tell you something, I'll know everyone who's important in that room. I'll know the people who put that event on. I'll know all their friends. I'll know the right social circle. But again, that's a conversation for a different time. So people want to be in alignment with leaders. They do. People want to be in alignment with their beliefs, their attitudes, their values, and even their level of communication, okay? So if we start looking at people like Branson and all of that, their beliefs, their attitude, their values, and their level of communication. If you have a tribe yourself, okay, then whether that's online or in person, wherever it is, that tribe wants to be in alignment with you, okay? That's why they're under your tribe, because you are the leader and they want to be in alignment with you. So when you start to understand this, people also want to be in alignment with you on a much deeper level. Their mission, their purpose, what action they take, their confidence, etc., right? So, for example, again, you're going to be sick of these people. Elon Musk, right? His purpose and mission is so huge, and it's all about saving humanity in the earth. How could you not be in alignment with that? How could you not want to be around his purpose and his mission and the action he's taken, his confidence? I want to, and I know you probably do too. So if you can understand these two things, then what you're going to understand is that that's how you start to lead, and that's how you start to enter a room and create that magnetism, okay? So 2 key qualities to lead like an 8-figure thinker leader. So let's analyze this a little bit with confidence and courage. Let's break this down a little bit into pieces, because first of all, to be an 8-figure leader, 8-figure thinker leader, got to be quick thinking, right? We want to be able to move away from how you are feeling into understanding to take the next step. And what feeling can I choose? Okay. So you might be, remember the older than you, or the consumer to investor, right? Very different feelings inside them, very different dominant emotions. Remember, each one's connected to a neural net, a filter system, a neurochemical cocktail that's affecting every cell and fiber in your body. Okay, it's affecting your beliefs and everything else. So what I want you to understand is, being an 8-figure thinker leader, we are using the emotion, you know this, but from states, right? Level 3, I think. Using that driver inside to drive to a different emotion, okay? We drive the emotion. So that's quick thinking. So here's how we do it. We'd ask the question, right, now this sucks here. What are the 3 options that can help me move forwards? So what have we done? We've paced here and we've led your mind to somewhere else, okay? So instead of being stuck in the emotion, we've led it to options. Those 3 options are going to create different emotions. Those emotions are what are going to drive us to take action now, okay? It connects you to your heart, and your heart is your courage, okay? So this is the thing that's going to drive us or lead us forwards. That's number 1. Number 2 is body language. And I gave you a little insight there, okay? So as a leader, Again, I'll do another courses on this, and I'll do it on video so I can show you physically, or if you come to any of my live events, then you can do this stuff, and I'll show you in person. But what we want is the confidence of unconscious traits. And if we become consciously aware of what these unconscious traits are, then we're able to change them. And the reason we want to be able to be aware of them is because it does not matter what you're doing, the person is going to react to it unconsciously, okay? So if I'll go through it in a few seconds actually, but if you're all closed, then that person is gonna get a certain interpretation. It doesn't matter how you're feeling inside, right? So by open body means inner arms exposed, chest up, and you're in a nice solid stance, okay? That shows people around you that you're confident. If you walked into a room with a big smile on your face, like that, do you think that make people look at you? Yeah. Do you think that displays confidence? Yeah. Is it something that you want to be in alignment with more? Yes, of course, right? So body language, they are not superior. And I've explained this one before. No one is superior, right? So if you're into a networking event and you're looking up at someone, that remember what I said before, we respect what they have done, but they have to earn respect and trust, okay? So we are all human. There is no hierarchy. I don't give a damn what bloodline you're from. There isn't, okay? Some people have gone further down a certain path. That's all it is. And if you're looking at someone who's generation rich, so they're the Rockefellers or anyone like that, understand, what did they do for it? Oh, that's right, just got born, okay? So it doesn't make them better, it just makes you got to respect who they are, what they've done, but there's no hierarchy. So what I want you to understand is there's no looking up at someone, no looking down at someone, we're all looking at someone on the same level, which allows us to use our body language, and it allows us to build deeper and deeper rapport because we don't have that ego wall or that boundary around what's possible, okay? Let's keep going. So number 3, cut words out and change your action. This is what 8-figure thinkers and leaders do. Identify your areas that you're not following up with your values on, right? Consumer, investor, right? Those are the people over the other side of the gap. We've transitioned you now. You've come a long way since then. So we want to make sure that we're cutting out the words and also cutting out the actions to make sure that we're in alignment with our own values and not someone else's values, okay? Now here's a little statement you can play with, okay? So I want to achieve blank, yet I am blank. This is because blank. Now I'm deciding to instead choose blank. Right. So I want to achieve 8 figures, yet I am holding myself back. This is because I've been acting like a consumer. Now I'm deciding instead to choose to be an investor and an 8-figure thinker. Use this, press pause on this, right? Use this little terminology, this little statement, this little metrics, right? I want to achieve, yet I am. This is because now I'm deciding to choose this. So again, what this has done is it's actually pacing and leading. These are topics I want to teach in a different course, but I want you to understand. I want to achieve the goal. Yet I am pain. This is because we're becoming consciously aware of the pain. Now I'm linking to a new decision, deciding to do something instead. So if you could use this on yourself, it's just a little extra tip to play with. Like it? Cool. Let's keep moving for you. Because we want to take that statement and that decision and ask the question, where can you in your life bring more fun? Where can you in your life can you bring more honesty? Where in your life can you bring more morality? Morality in this context meaning gratitude, right? Realization this life could be over and you might not wake up tomorrow. That's the truth. So by having those morality, you're being grateful. And that feeling is heart-centered, and that feeling is what we want. That's a frequency. So even these questions, right? If you made this new decision, where can you bring more fun into your life or your business or your product or your service or your relationship or your health? Where can you be more honest with your business, your relationship, your health, your past, your future? How can you be more grateful? How can you bring that morality in, okay? So just a little excerpt to think about before we carry on. Because what I want to talk about now is networking events. And I've covered little bits because I keep open loops and we move them through, and this is how we're closing them. So I want to look at this, magnetic presence, okay? It's about capturing attention and pulling people into your world. Now, we showed you a little bit before with the alignment, right? So this is how I want you to start thinking about going into anywhere, right? But especially going into networking events or social situations, because we want to be that magnet. So let me ask you a question. Think of a person who you know is like a magnet, okay? Think about that. I mean, a magnet draws all attention to them when they walk into a room, okay? So my question is, when did you first realize it? When did you first realize that they were a magnet and getting all that attention? Well, it was from a distance, wasn't it? It was that first impression, okay? From a distance indicates how you feel, and that's your posture, okay? So a winner walks around with big, more expressive posture. Right, now we're linking all the things together. So we walk into that room, and that's how people become a magnet, because they've got big, expressive posture. And that is how it indicates from a distance who they are, and that creates a first impression. So the posture of comfort and power, like we said before, that people want, it's open, it's happy, it's healthy, and people want to be around that. So if we walked into a room, like I said before, big smile and paused, I promise you, as you walk into that room, by the way, if you are like that and walk in slow, walk in obvious and open with a big smile looking around the room, that's not how most people walk in. So if you do walk in like that, what's going to happen is all eyeballs are going to come on you, and they're going to get a first impression because you're communicating with their unconscious or their subliminal mind, okay? So making sense now. So good posture. And this is again, I go into this in live events and other courses more deeper, but the point is, when you're communicating or talking to someone, I just want you to pay attention to your posture. We could talk about leaning in and different foot positions and different touching and stuff like that to build deeper rapport, but we don't have time. We don't have time for all of that stuff today. So good posture. If you look on the right, the person on the left, the middle, the right. So needy, you're leaning forwards. Neutral, hey, that's okay. Confident, we're leaning back slightly, okay? So we want it to be centered when we're talking to somebody. We want our shoulders forwards, not looking at them like this. Hey, what's going on? We want to be in alignment, and we also want our hips in alignment. This is signifying to the unconscious mind that this person is engaged to communicate with me, and they are present and receptive, okay? They are hearing me. What's going to happen is, if you're in this position and you're leaning forward slightly, what's that person going to do? Oh, they're in my space. What's the deal with this person? That links into also like building friendships and stuff, not just leaning in, but you know what it's like if you're after a girl or a boy, right? A new person in your life, and you go, I really like these, and you start to send text, and they're like, whoa, or maybe you've had that done to you, and they push away. It's the same thing that's going to happen when we lean in slightly. It's needy. You're encroaching on people's personal space without their consent. And what that means is their amygdala is going to get lit up and they're going to go, well, who is this person? I don't trust them. So you're giving off signals to the unconscious mind that you're not trustworthy right now. But if we're confident, what does that do? That pulls people in, okay? Is this making sense? Good. So think about this. If you're nervous and you're in these events and cross tight arms, like I started to mention before, it doesn't matter. Cold or nervous, they create the same mind read in someone else's perspective, right? They do. So what we got to do instead is expose them. This is the trick. Okay, I'm going to show you something in a second, actually. But I just want to go moving back. I just want you to pay attention to this before skipping on. Cold or nervous, it creates the same impression or communicates with the unconscious mind the same thing, right? They're nervous, which means they're not confident, they're not powerful. You get the idea. So people don't want to align with that. If you're nervous and twitching and doing all this stuff, then the thing is people aren't going to want to align with that. It's not what an 8-figure thinker leader does, okay? Plain and simple. So understand your body language is subliminally or unconsciously communicating. Remember that statement? You cannot not communicate, right? Think about that. So what the trick is, and this is the trick, we're exposing vulnerable parts of our body. This shows confidence, comfort, and power. And those are the things that people want to align with, okay? So inside wrists, chest, neck, it's exposed, okay? These are primal things that the unconscious mind is looking for to make sure that person is a leader, okay? So this is the cool thing too. I tested this in New York. Walking down the streets, I'd have my hands like this. Obviously, I'm not walking like this. I mean, down by my sides walking normally. But this way around, people were like, guys, there's a pecking order with guys constantly. For you ladies who don't understand, there is a constant pecking order, okay? So walking this way, people would look at me. I turn my wrist this way and walk more expressively. Instantly, guys, they would not stare. They wouldn't look at you, or they wouldn't like posture up at you. It wouldn't happen. And that's because their unconscious mind is telling them that this person is powerful, okay? So they don't want to mess with them. They're alpha, basically. Does that make sense? Cool. So this is how we're going to link this all back into rapport now, okay? So now we're connecting, we're doing all these things, you understand in body language, you get these ideas. And what did we say before about building rapport? Imagine, right? Bring up that best friend. We're going to do the same thing here. So crew, there we go. There's the end of episode 246. There's a ton more. There's probably at least another 45 minutes just on that section. But I just wanted to give you a little taste, and hopefully some of that made sense, and hopefully I'd suggest going and listening to that one again, right? See if you can implement that stuff. I'm going to put the video onto YouTube, so if you actually want to see the actual physical explanations and the graphics and stuff, well, it's going to be on there too. So I'll put the link into the show notes for you. But speaking of the show notes, make sure that you're leveling up. Step up. It's time, right? Let's do this. If you are a high performer and you have a strong mind and you want to sharpen it for any reason, then let's connect. If you are a high performer and you have dipped and want to bounce back to your full potential and then accelerate it to a whole new level, we need to chat. I've got so many things that are the right fit for you to get exactly what you need. So click the show notes, click the link, apply to have a chat with me, and we'll speak very soon, I'm sure. Until the next time. Make sure that you're sharing this episode with somebody. Make sure that you're writing a review for me, and you're going to have an amazing week. And until the next time, why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.